FoxDen Radio, the place where the Fox Finance community meets to chat, get updates from the team, conduct interviews, and answer questions. My name is Dave, also known as The Dude Abides in Canada.
Life goes on, man.
I'm the founder of the FoxDen and the host of FoxDen Radio. Join us as we grow this FoxDen Radio project, and you will gain the power to answer life's most mysterious question.
What does the fox say? The secret of the fox, ancient mystery, somewhere deep in the woods. I know you're hiding. What is your sound? Will we ever know? Will always be a mystery. What do you think?
Well, what does the FoxDen team have to say today? The Fox team has lots to say today on another edition of FoxDen Radio for June 11th, 2022. Today is a special show featuring an interview with the CEO of YummyCoin, Joe Foote. Fox Finance has partnered with YummyCoin to invest in their growth fund to help with their financial sustainability, so to be sure to listen to get all the inside details. We'll also feature our blockchain news section, including news stories about new staking opportunities on the Binance Smart Chain, the role of blockchain technology in the battle against climate change, and the development of alternative financial infrastructure in Africa. But first, let's check in about FoxInAction. What is FoxInAction? Well, it's my favorite part of Fox Finance. It's a charity contest series that gives opportunities for holders to gain Fox tokens by participating in activities in the real world that show our support for endangered species and the environment that is threatened by global warming. The Fox V2 NFT giveaway has now concluded. We have 43 winners from the last FoxInAction contest. If you participated in the event, please check your email inbox for instructions about how to claim your NFT prize. For our next FoxInAction contest, I'm happy to announce that we will be making a donation of up to $1,000 USD to support endangered species through the Nature Conservancy of Canada. We will also be rewarding our loyal holders through a contest with a simple task. Take a photo of yourself with your pet or any animal and upload it as part of our latest contest through the Sweep Widget platform. Be sure to include a piece of paper with the date and the hashtag FoxFinance in order to win. There are 25 prizes available, with 0.1 BNB worth of Fox tokens available for the first 25 entrants who complete the tasks correctly. So, which endangered species should we support? You get to choose. The Nature Conservancy of Canada offers donation packages for a variety of vulnerable animals. Vote for your favorite by liking and retweeting the Fox Finance tweet about the 3 animals in this contest. They are the Swift Fox, the Canada Lynx, and Blanding's Turtle. These are 3 endangered species that we're trying to support. Which one you choose? The Nature Conservancy of Canada is the nation's leading not-for-profit private land conservation organization. NCC coordinates donation campaigns to protect endangered species across Canada and the Arctic. Like and retweet your favorite animal in order to enter the FoxInAction contest. That's step 1. Step 2 is to show off your pet. That's right, you need to take a picture of yourself with your pet. Make sure you have a paper or anything you can write on holding up the date and the hashtag FoxFinance in the photo for your chance to win. If you don't have a pet, any animals, okay? But just make sure you include yourself, the animal, and the information with the hashtag in your photo in order to successfully qualify. Remember, the first 25 people to follow the instructions correctly are the ones who will win. They will each get 0.1 BNB, about $30 USD worth of Fox tokens, and Fox Finance will make a donation of $40 to the animal of your choice through the NCC. That's a $1,000 charity donation by Fox Finance. And of course, if any of our community members have other ideas for how we can make a positive difference in the world, feel free to share your suggestions with the core team. Along with myself, Viora, James, Daniel, and Henry, we're a team of community leaders who want to give other community members the opportunity to help drive the future of Fox Finance and our charitable projects. We love animals here at Fox Finance, so for today's show, our theme is going to be a tribute to the DJ Avicii. And for this first song, we're going to go with one. It's called Gonna Love Ya, about our love for animals, here on FoxDen Radio.
I'm gonna love ya like no one could. Make your heart feel the way it should. I'm gonna hold ya when no one would. 'Cause I swear you deserve so good. Sometimes it's hard to have the upper hand when every dream you had is turning into sand. You need someone to make your day, but he took your breath and blew it away. I'm gonna love ya like no one could. Make your heart feel the way it should. I'm gonna hold ya when no one would. 'Cause I swear you deserve so good.
Welcome everybody back to FoxDen Radio. Today we've got a special guest on our interview portion of the show. He's from a project that Fox Finance has been partnering with. Have you heard about the Growth Fund? You probably have. People are excited about it. Well, here we are joined today by the CEO of Yummy, Joe Foote. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Awesome to be here.
That's great. So I appreciate you being on FoxDen Radio. Just wanted to get some more information from you so our holders can have an idea about what this whole Yummy ecosystem is all about. So first, could you just tell me, like, who founded Yummy Crypto and how did the project get started?
So Yummy was not founded by me. I joined later on as an investor, and then the original team essentially abandoned the project when the market started turning south. The original founder was this guy that went for the nickname of Big C in the Telegram chat. If you go to the Yummy chat and you search for his messages way back when, you will see him. And then, like many other projects, when the market started correcting heavily and the price started collapsing, a lot of the team was starting to make themselves scarce, and eventually they just stopped showing up. And at the time, I was an investor in the project, and I'm very familiar with cryptocurrencies for a long time. I've been back from the early days in Bitcoin. I used to be in the Bitcoin talk forums and have quite a decent amount of stories that I've seen over time. And after putting some capital in Yummy and the team, deciding to essentially making themselves scarce, I offered my services to kind of help them out, to kind of, trying to ride the market wave and trying to regain some semblance of value to the project. And they were very welcoming at the time. Yeah, sure, absolutely, let's do it. But then eventually, communications became even more scarce. And at some point, they just stopped responding altogether, especially the original CEO. And because it's an renounced contract, bulk liquidity, much like Fox Finance, basically, we had really like very few alternatives to what the path moving forward was. So I kind of went to the community and said, hey guys, I can get my team that works with me to kind of create a new contract. We can fork this into a new contract, migrate the tokens, and that one will be one that we will have ownership of. We can also migrate quite a substantial amount of liquidity because it was close to $1 million in liquidity in the Yummy pool at the time. And the community said, yeah, let's do it. And then when we started the migration, we had about 80% participation, meaning 80% of the tokens decided to go along with us. V1 still exists. People can still trade it. They can still try to make it into a project, but there's obviously no team working on it. But people are always free to trade V1 as well. When we had some people who didn't migrate, either because they didn't care or because they've lost a lot of capital or something like that, and they're just disenchanted with the market. But then we move on to V2, we unlocked some of that liquidity, and then with that created the new concept, which was the growth fund. And the growth fund really is nothing more than liquid capital, which is usually in either BNB or BUSD or USDT or Cake or some sort of other high quality token, and essentially placed in staking contracts, which even within this market have pretty good yields. And a lot of the ecosystems in which those staking contracts exist, they're actually somewhat sustainable, and we're still able to get quite a decent amount of cash that we can use for essentially daily expenses. And the most common application is to buy back our own token, which is also what Fox Finance plans to do with their own growth fund. And then when we started a partnership and with Viora and also James that we were talking, they kind of ask questions about the growth fund. We give them a little bit of an overview, like, yeah, this is exactly what we need. And then started to do the migration with Fox, and the rest is history, right? So that's kind of where Fox finds itself now, is pretty much where Yummy was about 5 to 6 months ago. And we've been able to ride this market better than most. And we still think that the growth fund is an incredible asset to have.
Wow, that's a really amazing story. That sounds like some pretty cool leadership coming out of the Yummy community to people stepping up and taking over the project. Yeah, a little similar like we did here at Fox Finance, helping Wojtek to develop this community organization that we're running with James and Viora and Daniel and Henry. Appreciate those guys. I know they've been really excited about Yummy and everything, and persuaded us all to get on board. And yeah, we're really happy with the partnership. Could you tell me a little bit more about the growth fund? So I've heard about like yield farming and staking, but like, what is it actually? What are you staking in, and how does it work?
So the liquidity pools that exist for any token can exist in a variety of exchanges. So the most common one is PancakeSwap, which pretty much everybody who's on the Binance network has heard of Pancake at some point. If you're in Ethereum, you've heard of Uniswap, which is kind of the original decentralized exchange. And for a token to be traded on those platforms, it needs a liquidity pool. And the liquidity pool is essentially someone, you provide liquidity by providing a 50-50, contribution of whatever tokens that are being traded in that pool. So in the case of BNB, BUSD, for example, you provide whatever amount you want to provide, 50% in BNB, 50% in BUSD. And by providing that service, you essentially get paid a fee from whatever trades that happens within that pool. That's called the LP, or the liquidity pool rewards. But also to incentivize certain pairs which are very popular or needed for the exchange to work well, like BNB, BUSD is a very popular pair because obviously trading between the stablecoin of BUSD and between BNB itself. Platforms will offer you an additional incentive, which is the farm, which means you can add liquidity to the pool and you'll collect the fees from the pool. But then you can also take that liquidity you added in the form of LP tokens and essentially stake that into another contract where you get additional rewards. And the exchanges or these platforms, they do this to incentivize that there's enough liquidity to meet the normal operation of the exchange. So something like PancakeSwap, for example, right now has billions of dollars, worth in these staking contracts. And the pair of BNB, BUSD has something like 400 million staked in the platform because Pancake has huge amounts of volume, so they need a lot of liquidity. And the big advantage of that is what that means is you can have a very substantial amount of funds that are generating some sort of passive gains that you can apply to buy back your own token because you're getting essentially rewards in the token of another platform. You can sell them and buy BNB and then buy your own token. So you kind of have that constant buying pressure in your own project. But also you have all that capital being deployed on something else other than your token, right? So if your token starts, for whatever reason, let's say you have a large holder or some sort of sentiment, gets over the market or whatever, and people just start selling your token. If all your reserves of capital are in your own token, then you start being between a rock and a hard place. And that's essentially what happened with tons and tons of projects. It's, some people will have $10-20 million worth of their own token at the height of the market. Everything was rosy and they said, we have plenty of funds to continue, no worry, guys. And then the market starts crashing, their price collapses 20, 30, 40x even sometimes. And now all of a sudden, instead of 20 million, they have like $200,000 or $300,000 of their own token. And that means if they start selling their own token, that further exacerbates the downward movement. So it becomes a real problem for them to be sustainable, right? And of course, hindsight 2020, what a lot of these projects wish they would have done is sold some tokens at the height of it and get some of these tokens, that they could use afterwards, and also the staking contracts, but nobody did. But a lot of these projects like Fox and others that have locked liquidity, they do actually have quite a decent amount of value within their liquidity pools. And that's what we saw with Yummy, and that's what we saw with Fox. That's why I would reach out and say, hey guys, you can tap into this liquidity pool. You can put this money working for you. And I think right now Fox is generating something like $200 or $300 a day that can be used for all kinds of expenses or to do token buybacks, right? And if you look at the price and everything, the reduced liquidity isn't really affecting, the price that much, and the volatility remains relatively low. Because that's also another problem is if you have a small market cap but really high liquidity pools, it's very hard to move your price. And in crypto, stagnation is essentially death, right? If the price stays flat or slow bleed over many weeks or months, people become disenchanted, lack morale. They start saying the project has been abandoned. That affects the team as well, and nothing good comes out of it. With this, you have a good pool of funds on the side working for you. Liquidity is a little bit reduced, but volatility is still fun because it's still a bear market. And you actually have this additional funds that you can use for anything, right? And you can use for marketing expenses and everything. And there's really no other mechanism that will allow you to do that in a sustainable fashion, like having a growth fund.
Right. Wow. You explained that really well. I appreciate that. So yeah, you can see how by having that staking, so that's coming from the fees, right? Essentially, you're getting like a portion of the fees to help towards that, and that starts to accumulate, and then there's opportunities to what do you do with it, right? So we're trying to reinvest some of our earnings back into the growth fund, trying to get that compound interest working for us. And then, but then also, we're using it for things like team expenses, right? Because we're running
you can use it for anything. It's liquid capital, right? And the other thing is, a lot of times people ask, but how is it possible that these staking contracts are paying 20, 30%? Even in this market, BNB, BUSD, staking contracts on Cake and other ones are paying, around 20%. And people are like, but how is that even possible? Like, how can you get such kind of, those yields? Something, there has to be some sort of risk factor. Well, in reality, what you're doing is you're providing a market to crypto players who are incredibly aggressive in their own trading behaviors. Like, the amount of trading that goes on these platforms is insane because people are always jumping from token to token. They're always jumping from project to project, trying to get, those pumps, and they lose patience very quickly. They sell the tokens, they buy other ones. And a pair like BNB, BUSD, for example, will see ridiculous amount of volume. And actually, the highest volume that they see is during, negative days when the market is really bad because people are kind of flying to safety, right? So they sell BNB to buy a stable coin. And they see ridiculously high volumes. So you're getting a high percentage of the fees for that day. And sometimes it can be quite substantial. But that's essentially why this is possible. Like by you providing a market for people to take risks. You are getting paid for their, risk taking, basically. And for a lot of times, I tell people that, if you get to a certain level that you feel you have a decent portfolio, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like, you don't have to go and take insane chances. You can just use these staking contracts, generate income, which will be used for, depending on where you're located, you can pretty much cash that out into whatever local currency you have, pay taxes on it, and just live off that type of passive income. And it's shocking to me how many people have accumulated insane portfolios during the bull run. I personally know people who've had millions of dollars in gains in either NFTs or others, and still playing that game of high risk taking, when in reality that's not necessary. Like, this stuff is for anybody to use. And you go to some of those pools and you'll see some people, or institutions even, with 20, 30, 40, $50 million positions in those pools, just simply collecting that passive yield. And they understand what's going on, and so do we. And that's why we use the community funds from Yummy to, we have 1.1 million essentially that's staked in those contracts, generating that capital to then buy back the token, and the entire money stays in the ecosystem.
Huh. That really makes sense. And, I hadn't really thought about that, because I wondered about, in a down market, how is it happening? But then you're right. Like, when things go down, a lot of times people, they trade into stable coins so they can ride it out. And then there's the tax for that. So there still is, is that kind of volume. So that really makes sense. And it's something that's a little more stable, right? And I feel like it's kind of how cryptocurrency in a way is kind of maturing as an industry, right? It's trying to find these less volatile, extreme things, trying to, more stable ways of sustaining an organization. So it's really cool to hear how that all works. So how does Yummy envision the partnership with Fox Finance?
So Fox is also a little bit of an odd duck, because we reached out to several projects, and we have a few other ones we're working with as well. But Fox Finance was, leadership was kind of changing, like the ownership was passing to Viola. And you guys still have a very active, very smart, very dedicated core team who wants to make things happen, right? So in this partnership, what we offered to Fox was, the knowledge of how to help with the migration, although you guys already had pretty much everything lined up, and how the growth fund could work. And we're also creating an ecosystem called Cinder, which I'm not going to go in detail now, because a lot of that stuff is still just need to know basis. But at some point, we are going to offer Fox the possibility to join that ecosystem. And I think at that point, it's going to be a pretty appealing thing to do, to join the ecosystem. But even if that doesn't happen and Fox continues to kind of do its own thing and have its own goals, we still can learn a lot from one another and having overlapped the communities. Because by having things like, for example, staking pools, where we, as you guys are probably aware, like, most of the community, I'm sure, is aware, there's a staking pool in the Yummy staking platform where you can stake Fox and get paid in Yummy, or you can stake Yummy and get Fox. That kind of partnership where there's overlap of the holders, where people check one website to check another website, to check one project, another project, you can have some cross-pollination, and you can have some people from Yummy saying, oh, this Fox Finance looks kind of cool, let me buy some tokens. Or Fox Finance people saying the same thing about Yummy. So we envision that kind of collaboration to happen for, the foreseeable future, and also the plans you guys have with the gamification and also some NFTs and everything that, can always be discussed of, ideas, things to move forward, to continue to add utility to the token, and just overall have a good relationship. We do have some really big plans for Yummy in the sense of what, Cinder will become. We're not there yet, and we kind of need to reach some critical mass. This market is actually helping us quite a bit in getting where we need to be. Not going to go into details of why that's the case, but that's actually the kind of market that we expected, and it's working out pretty good. So yeah, I think it's going to be fruitful, because at the end of the day, the best kind of partnerships is when you have two teams who work well together, smart people who are constantly kind of brainstorming, and they're just, trying to figure out what this whole field is about, coming up with ideas, being dynamic, being honest, which is also a very, very important thing. I mean, it's so hard to find teams that you can trust and leadership that is serious, that is not out just to get paid. And And I think Fox really meets all those standards. So yeah, we're really happy to work with you guys.
Oh, thanks for the compliments. Yeah, our core team, we've been working away on this for a long time. We're all people who really care about the project and believe that that crypto can be a force for good in the world. So appreciate your time and having you on the show there, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. And I have to say, it's been a real pleasure working with Fox Finance and you guys over there. I mean, like I said, it's really hard to find good teams, good people you can trust and talk with. And you guys have awesome leadership. I think everybody there is like really with the heart in the right place. Anyway, man, let's build some stuff. Let's do things.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again, Joe. And that's it for this segment of FoxDen Radio.
See you guys.
All right, let's take another break and listen to a track in our tribute to Avicii. This one is called Hey Brother. Seems appropriate given the partnership between Fox Finance and Yummy Coin. Here is Avicii, Hey Brother, featuring Dan Tominski here on FoxDen Radio. Welcome to the news section of FoxDen Radio, where we discuss some of the latest things happening across the blockchain industry and on the Binance Smart Chain, where Fox Finance lives. Our first article is titled, Binance US Launches Crypto Staking Assault on Rivals Coinbase and Gemini, written by Ian Allison from CoinDesk. Binance US, the American arm of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, has launched a blockchain staking product promising high yields on staked crypto, with the aim of outflanking similar offerings from rival US-based exchanges. The staking service, where users lock in assets to support proof-of-stake networks, enables users to earn up to an 18% annual percentage yield on certain tokens, the company announced on Tuesday. The POS blockchains that Binance US supports include Audius, Avalanche, BNB Chain, Cosmos, LivePeer, Solana, and The Graph. More tokens will be added in the near future. Big exchanges simplify the staking of crypto tokens, for which they take a slice of the yield generated by the coins. Binance US CEO Brian Schroeder said the plan is to outdo staking APYs on the likes of Coinbase and Gemini. Schroeder said staking Cosmos blockchain's Atom token will generate a yield of 12.2 APY on Binance.us, while something like the smaller market cap LivePeer token could promise up to an 18% yield on LPT. Quote, "We wanted to put out a product that would unquestionably be the best staking platform in the United States by the end of the year," Schroeder said in an interview. So, for comparison purposes, we're looking at the Coinbases, the Geminis, Krakens, and BlockFis of the world, both in terms of more competitive returns and usability. All told, Binance.us appears to be in good health, notwithstanding signs of a bear market. Schroeder says the firm has plenty of dry powder to pursue acquisitions further down the line. He also took the opportunity to point out that, in contrast to the dismal job news coming out of Coinbase and Gemini, his firm is hiring. Last week, Coinbase announced a hiring freeze and said it would rescind offers to applicants who had accepted jobs at the exchange. Gemini, meanwhile, said it would lay off 10% of its staff. "We are hiring Coinbase and Gemini people onto our staff," Schroeder said. "There's a lot of talent from those organizations that are applying to our open positions, and we're actively interviewing them." Our next news story was published by the United Nations Environmental Program and was written by Toyo Kawabata. In the battle against climate crisis, don't overlook the blockchain. As the world increasingly looks at digital technology to accelerate action on issues such as climate change and biodiversity loss, blockchain is pushing to the forefront. Blockchain is a digitally distributed, decentralized ledger that helps to verify and trace multi-step transactions. While it might be best known as the architecture behind cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, the blockchain is finding uses in everything from tracking the sustainability of products to the real-time monitoring of pollution. This technology is key to innovations in energy and climate, say experts. But so far, little attention has been given to how blockchain can be used in developing countries. A research report entitled Blockchain for Sustainable Energy and Climate in the Global South, Use Cases and Opportunities explores how the technology can accelerate the transition to clean energy and help combat climate change in developing countries. It's a publication that comes as global temperatures are on pace to rise by at least 2.7% by the end of the century, a number that the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called catastrophic. Quote, "The world needs to almost halve emissions over the next 8 years to stay on track for a 1.5 Celsius world, while at the same time expanding access to energy to bring hundreds of millions of people onto the grid," said Mark Radka, chief of UNEP's Energy and Climate Branch, referring to data from UNEP's Emission Gap Report from 2021. Quote, "Blockchain technology can play a part by making possible more accurate load monitoring, generation, and distribution in the grid through the efficient use of data," he added. Businesses have begun to tap into the environmental potential of blockchain. For example, South Africa's Sun Exchange allows anyone with an internet connection to buy solar panels online and rent them to businesses, hospitals, schools, and other organizations in Africa. Sun Exchange uses the Bitcoin blockchain for cross-border payments so that there are no intermediaries between the beneficiaries and the investors. In 2015, the company installed its first solar power panels at a school in the Cape Town region, financed entirely by private individuals through cryptocurrencies. By 2020, the platform had 18,000 users in 162 countries. Through the Sun Exchange solar installations, organizations have reduced their energy costs by 20 to 30% and have been able to redirect these funds towards their core offerings, including quality education for children, positive living environments for elderly residents, and care for vulnerable wildlife. But there are barriers to blockchain technology. A massive amount of computing power and electricity is needed to process certain types of transactions. In many countries, that energy can be prohibitively expensive. The report from the UN suggests that new regulatory frameworks will be key to addressing the high cost of power. For example, electricity tariffs in many places would need to be changed so that energy consumers are more likely to participate in surplus energy trading through blockchain platforms. But such regulatory frameworks and guidelines are still lacking. The report concludes that as blockchain is still in its infancy and given the potential negative environmental impact, the technology itself needs to evolve to foster environmental sustainability at scale. Driving the penetration of blockchain and relevant emergent technologies will require improving digital infrastructure. As blockchain and related digital technologies develop rapidly, policymakers also need to adjust regulations to spur the development of future energy systems while mitigating environmental risks. UNEP-led partnerships, such as the recently launched Coalition for Digital Environmental Sustainability, can support these efforts by linking digital technology applications to environmental sustainability. Our last article today is titled Crypto Continent, The Rise of African Blockchain Startups, written by Amar Diwakar for trtworld.com. Africa is poised to be the next hub of crypto and blockchain development as a new startup ecosystem emerges to help the region solve its most pertinent challenges. With blockchain on its way to becoming a central element in the next digital transformation of the global economy, one region yet to fully tap into the technology's potential is Africa. But that has begun to change in the last 2 years, with blockchain bursting onto the African fintech, financial technology, scene as adoption across the continent has accelerated. Today, Africa is the third fastest growing cryptocurrency market globally, steadily attracting large investments. Between July 2020 and June 2021, crypto adoption in Africa surged by over 1,200%. Adoption rates are high in countries like Kenya, South Africa, Tanzania, and Nigeria, where the lack of financial services infrastructure has boosted crypto ownership, alongside being a preferred alternative for storing and transferring assets. In April, the Central African Republic made Bitcoin a legal tender, the second country to do so after El Salvador. In terms of financial infrastructure, personal identification, record keeping, and a lack of access to individual financial independence, Africa's current state of affairs has created the ideal conditions to accelerate the adoption of blockchain technology. This is what makes the African tech scene so fertile. It solves real-world challenges faced by its people daily. The proliferation of mobile technologies across the continent has dovetailed with the widespread adoption of digital payment systems and, increasingly, in cryptocurrencies, which grant people in cash-based and informal economies access to an alternative economic infrastructure than that provided in Africa. With 370 million Africans classified as unbanked, one of the prime areas in which blockchain can make an immediate difference is in financial inclusion. The rising rates of mobile tech adoption, combined with Africa's growing tech-savvy population, make the continent a prime candidate for emerging technologies like Bitcoin. With instability in the global financial markets, high remittance fees, and limited access to banking, more and more people are turning to alternative solutions like Bitcoin to solve their everyday financial problems. Several successful crypto exchanges have emerged in recent years, like Pan-African exchange Yellowcard, which is currently available in almost a dozen countries with plans to expand in the future. Given the importance of agriculture across the center, it is no surprise that farmers have looked to integrate blockchain solutions into the sector. One example is the pioneering Beef Ledger SA, which deploys a blockchain-enabled provenance platform to verify and trace the authenticity of beef products to combat food safety and fraud concerns that plague the South African market. Many Africans cannot rely on vast, centralized, regulated infrastructure systems. Those are often riddled with inefficiencies and red tape in the cases where they even exist. As a result, innovation is blessed with a clean slate on which to paint, and progressive advances seem to follow. Its lack of legacy infrastructure offers an opportunity to leapfrog outdated systems and respond with more innovation, speed, and agility. This kind of out-of-the-box approach is endemic to Africa, and the reason it has become so sought after in the world of blockchain investment, and something other countries can apply to new frontiers, industries, and markets as well. That's it for the news section of FoxDen Radio. We're going to continue our tribute to Avicii. This next track is one of my favorites. It's called Levels. Enjoy Avicii, Levels on FoxDen Radio.
Get a good feeling, yeah. Get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah. Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. Get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Thanks everybody for tuning in to another edition of FoxDen Radio. My name's Dave Praxis, aka The Dude Abides in Canada. I've been your host. Be sure to tune back in 2 weeks for another live stream on YouTube of FoxDen Radio. And on the alternating weeks, we host live chats with the team in our Telegram audio chat. So check in there for your chance to ask questions and get the latest updates. Have a good one, my dudes.